So who's this webinar for? Well, firstly, it's for fast action takers who want to start or expand their portfolio. Rent to rent is one of those strategies that can really allow you to get going quickly and expand quickly, as you'll see as we go through the presentation. And it's for committed people who want to build that portfolio. And you'll see some examples of students that we've worked with and how they've built theirs in a very short space of time. And if you want to replace your job and need a step-by-step plan, then you can definitely do that with this strategy. It's one of those kind of strategies that is not difficult but requires effort, and I think that's where a lot of people fall down. So if you're the kind of person that is prepared to put the effort in, then you could potentially replace your job with this strategy. And it's not for course junkies. I say this a few times when we've run webinars. If all you're going to do is just listen to webinar and webinar and webinar and not take any action, then seriously, guys, you've got to ask what you're doing. This webinar is for investors, people that are prepared to commit, make decisions, and move forward with their life and expanding their wealth, and not for those looking to get rich quick. Whilst rent to rent is a relatively quick strategy for getting going, and you can start to earn reasonable amounts of income, property per se is not a get rich quick scheme. So why now? Good quote from Warren Buffett: be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. The time that we're in now, unprecedented, aren't we? You look at the past few months of lockdown, which has now been released, so we're out of lockdown for the majority, and look at what's happening in the market. We've seen sudden increases in prices following the lockdown, where we've got a shortage of supply and plenty of buyers pushing prices up. That will change over the next few months, and we're going to get back to a situation not quite as bad as the 2008-2009 recession, but we can similar kind of circumstances, I think, towards the end of this year into next year, but time will tell. And perhaps we've got the perfect storm. The furlough scheme that a lot of people are on is going to expire in the next month or two, and the potential downside of that is there will be a lot of redundancies. Unemployment is expected to go up more than double, and in times of hardship, people tend to look to cut costs, and that often means downsizing as well. So if they're renting, say, a one-bedroom, they may look to then downsize to a room. So the growth in rooms tends to grow more in a recession than at any other time. So what are we going to cover? The definition of rent to rent and how it works. Why now is the best time for many years to start a rent to rent business, and how to find the best deals in today's market as well, and how you can earn up to £1,000 per month from one property. And Justin will show you some examples of properties where that's happening. You give peace of mind to landlords, and how you can revive dead deals. Some of those deals you might have looked at in the past may now become more viable once you understand how to actually implement this particular strategy, and the potential earnings you could be on within 3 months of starting and following the step-by-step plan that we can show you, and how to add or start your portfolio with very little cash. The really good thing about rent to rent, it's a strategy that it doesn't require huge deposits, doesn't require large upfront capital. If you think about the amount you'd spend on a deposit buying a buy-to-let or an HMO, compare that to the startup cost, which we'll show you for rent to rent, you can see why it's such an attractive strategy. So who are we? Well, the PMA team. You can see the four of us there in the photo. So from the left, Peter, he's not with us tonight. Obviously, Justin, you can see. Jackie in the middle is also not with us tonight, and then myself on the end. We've got over 80 years property and business experience between us. So a little bit about myself. So I own quite a large UK property portfolio. I'm also CEO of Max Property Group, which is a European-based property investment fund and crowdfunding platform, which we've just launched, and co-founder of Property Master Academy. And one of the things I like doing is I specialize in really is mentoring entrepreneurs and professionals to achieve financial freedom and create real wealth through property. Now, let me introduce you to this young man we worked with over a number of years, persuaded him to come out of retirement to help run this webinar and the rent-to-rent mentorship that we run, Mr. Justin Whittemore.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Hi, guys. So yeah, that's me. It's a nice little photo there, isn't it? So don't normally dress like that, actually, guys. I'm normally quite scruffy, as you can see. In the gym a lot, play golf a lot, go shooting, play pigeon shooting a lot. And generally just live a lifestyle that I've created, really. So I don't really worry too much about what other people think and whatever. I dress how I want, and I do what I want when I want. And how have I got that? Well, that's come from rent to rent. You know, obviously I have other investments I invest in, you know, and I would be telling you a long story if I told you otherwise, and I told you that everything I had has just come from rent to rent. However, everything has come from rent to rent. You know, everything that I have now started with rent to rent to a degree. So my name's Justin Whittemore, and I'm a property. I like to call myself a property entrepreneur, more than necessarily an investor or a developer or a HMO landlord. Why an entrepreneur? Well, I like to find problems within the property sector. I like to find problems with the investment sector, full stop. And I like to create solutions for those problems. So the key to all entrepreneurs is they find a problem and they create a solution. So that's probably why I want to call myself more a property entrepreneur. I've been doing rent to rent now for well over 10 years now. And Mark has already suggested or spoke about the last recession, 2008. If I just take you back a little while, so myself, I'm, you know, and the reason why I'm telling you this is not for you to feel sorry for me, because it's not a hard luck story, but I have a condition called dyslexia. As you can probably see, I'm not looking at the slides or saying anything that's coming from here, but dyslexia is a condition where you struggle to see words properly. You know, many people would think that I can't read. I can actually read every word that you put in front of me. Unfortunately, when I look at it on a screen or on a bit of paper, it all moves around and it's in different things, and I just can't, you know, I can't read it out. And that hasn't really stopped me in what, you know, because all that's helped me do is identify solutions. So my problem I had was dyslexia, and I really struggled in classrooms, etc., etc. So the way my brain was geared was to create a solution to that problem, and that was either to mess around it, you know, or create something that stop people thinking of, you know, seeing me read or whatever. So from a very early age, I've always been creating solutions to problems. However, I then didn't get on particularly well at school. I was always told that I'd be no good and I would never make it as anything. And when you are told something enough, you actually become it. So the troublemaker that they said that I would always become, I became. The no good person they always said that I would become, I became. To a point where things were just going in a bad way. And anyway, I ended up on a building site, and I figured out that I was pretty good in my hands, and I was put forward to for an apprenticeship with Lang's Super Homes as a carpenter and joiner. I then passed that with flying colours, absolutely fantastic joiner. But when I came out of that and I was going to go on site as for piecework and earn thousands of pounds each month, it didn't quite work out like that, because what happened was that we had a recession in that period, and all the jobs were gone. They laid all us apprentices off, and I became very angry with the world again. started getting in trouble, etc. You know, I'm not going to hold anything back from you guys. I'll tell you exactly how it was. But ultimately, it got to a point where I decided that just enough was enough. I was letting too many people down, my parents and whatnot, and grandparents who I ended up living with. And I decided that I was going to go in the armed forces. Now, so I joined the armed forces, and I joined the army, and it was there that they discovered I had dyslexia. And how it all came about was that we was on exercise and we was on the ranges, and I was firing the weapons, and they spotted something in me, which I was actually a very good shot. I could shoot rifles and machine guns and whatnot, but mainly rifles very, very well. And they said, look, you know, we want to run some tests on you because you're firing weapons like we haven't seen for a long, long time. We have seen your scores obviously coming in. You didn't exam very well, hence the reason why you've just come in as an infantry soldier, and you haven't gone forward for like the engineers or anything like that, communications. But we want to run some tests on you anyway. So I went and had some tests, and they come back and said, you know, did you always think that you was pretty done? Did you always think that you could, because you couldn't get exams, you was thick? And I was like, yeah. And I said, well, none of that is true. You've actually got a condition called dyslexia. So it was the army that spotted this. So that's quite late on in life. They then turned around and said, you know, for this, your eyes see things very differently to most people. You're able, talking about opportunities, you're able to see opportunities, you're able to analyze stuff very, very well, very fast. We want to put you through to marksmanship school. So I basically went through to marksmanship school. If you want to be an American or whatever, that's a sniper. And that's what I did. And I absolutely loved my role. I loved what I did in the forces, until one day I got quite badly injured, which forced me to leave the forces, which was a bit of a mind blow, if I'm honest, because I'd signed up for the full 22 years. I loved it that much. Come out of the forces, took my resettlement scheme, drove lorries for a little while, and realised it wasn't for me. But then I went on to become an estate agent for some mad reason. I just walked into all the estate agents, and I don't know why, but I generally like talking to people, and I was just getting bored sitting in lorries. So I went in, I got offered, you know, you think soldier walking in, presenting the way I presenting, and I literally got offered every single job, and I chose the company I wanted to work with. Within the first year, I became senior negotiator. Within the first within the second year, I became office manager, and within 3 years, I became area manager for this chain of estate agents. Now, in this time, and this is why I always say to have a mentor is so important, because I still have a mentor today. That mentor is a gentleman, probably one of the richest men I'll ever meet and ever know. But he was a gentleman that came into the agency when I was there. He ended up buying hundreds and hundreds of houses from me. I sourced them for him. But I learned from him. I basically, because long the story short is that nobody else would look after him because he was really scruffy. However, he was one of the richest men you'll ever meet, but he just wanted to dress like that to see how people would take him. I ran out after him after one of our negotiators treated him really, really poorly, and invited him in, apologized, gave him a cup of tea, coffee, and we just clicked. And he would buy houses to keep, and he would buy houses to flip, and he would do land. And I basically said to him, I said, look, you know, you've bought so many houses from me. I love what you do. Was there any chance that you could teach me what you did? And he said, you know what, Justin, because of the way you've treated me, and I can see you generally care for people, I'm I'll show you exactly what I do. So I just started mirroring him, and every month I'd go to him and say, this is what I've done, and he'd either shout at me or put me right, or whatever, but basically guided me in the direction. Moving forward, I brought and sold lots of properties. I'd made a fair bit of money, and I went to the company I was working for and said, look, I would like to buy into the property, sorry, buy into your company, because I've got these real good visions of where I want to take your company or our company and take it into the next century and really push it to the next level. And they said no, and I was like, why? Surely, you know, I'm your highest ever earner, probably by about 5 times over anybody else. Why do you not want me part of your company? And they said, because you're too valuable as a salesman, which I thought was very short-sighted. So with that, I wrote on a bit of paper, I'm leaving, and walked out. Now, this company treated me awful. They treated me like I was a nobody, which fired me onto my next stage, and that was to use my ideas and open my own agency, which I did with the money that I'd saved. I kept it. I didn't invest it back into their companies. They didn't want it, but I did my own thing. And then I started my own agency up. I then built that agency. Within the first year, we become #1 agents, holding 48% of the market share. I then went on to open multiple offices. At one single time, we had 64 staff. And 2 years in May just gone, I sold that business for quite a life-changing amount of money, because on that business, I attached not just sales, but I'd attached a letting agency, and I'd attach a financial service agency to it as well. So I'm very, very well versed in building business and selling businesses. Sold that money, started investing that money as, you know, what I'd been doing to other stuff. But that's not all the story, because, and how did I get into rent to rent? Well, back to 2008, when Mark said, we had a huge recession, and the company that I just spoke about, I nearly lost. And the reason I nearly lost it is because, well, basically, we went from selling 70 houses a month to selling around anything from 0 to 7 houses a month. So all of our income had gone. As a businessman, I earned so much money so fast, I spent everything. So when, you know, excuse my friends, the shit hit the fan, I had no real reserves. All I did have was a fight and a never giving determination, never to let this go. And I carried on fighting. But what we had was a huge problem of a load of 4 and 5 bedroom houses just sitting empty, doing nothing. So I'd previously invested in HMOs. I brought some HMOs, and I turned around to my business partner at the time and said, look, we've got some HMOs. We've got a load of houses sitting empty. How about we rent those properties, split it up into rooms, and rent them out? And then what we'll do is give the landlord this, and we will take the what's left. And his words were, he said, never work. It will never work, but give it a go. I know you've got quite a knack at these sort of things, and so give it a go. So we did. Literally, I spoke to the landlord. He said, yeah, just take the property. I just need this gone, Justin. It's absolutely killing me. And if you don't take it, we're probably going to get repossessed anyway. So I took the property. Now, bearing in mind, that was a 4-bedroom house that we changed into a 5-bedroom. Our management fee on that for letting was £100 plus VAT, or £110 plus VAT. And so we said, look, we're going to give you the rent. We're not going to pay a management fee, but we won't charge you anything. So you quid's in either way. And then what we did was we rented the rooms out and we kept the difference. Now, the profit that we kept was over £1,000. Bearing in mind that our management fee was only going to be £100 or £110. So my business partner was looking at it and going, I cannot believe what you've just done. Did you think you could do it again? And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, of course I can. Did it again, exactly the same thing happened, to a point where we absolutely just railroad this to a point where we was earning more from this than we was from when we were selling houses. And and that then just pushed me on to the next level. I then acquired, over 65 HMOs from different landlords, from other agents, because other agents were suffering. So when Mark was saying there's opportunities in everything, that's a classic example of opportunity in recession, that I just saw the problem, created a solution in the middle of one of the heaviest recessions that we're probably likely to see for a while. Most of my properties, are in excess of £800 a month. Some of them achieve way over £1,500 a month. But we always like to tell people that the minimum that you're going to be looking at is a £500 a month, because I don't want to give all these big figures and say, you can definitely do this, because guys, to start with, you guys aren't me, and you might be lucky, and times have changed slightly as well. You'll definitely get £500 a month, and in many of my mentees are hitting anything from 500 to over £1,000 a month. So guys, the reason why I wanted to tell you that story was, hopefully it will qualify me in your minds, that I can tell you about what we're going to talk about tonight, and it will sort of reinforce that my knowledge is not just in property, but it's in business, full stop. I know how to grow businesses. I know how to sell businesses. I know what makes businesses valuable. And I'm also pretty good at property as well. Where I am today is worlds apart from where I was in 2008. I live in my dream home. I have my dream cars on the driveway. My wife has her dream cars. My kids have what they want. We enjoy amazing holidays. How did that all start? Well, really, that started from Rent to Rent was the key. Rent to Rent was the turning point. If it hadn't been for 2008, where I made lots of mistakes, today I would have probably been the same as I was in 2008 and spending everything. But because of 2008, it taught me a very valuable business lesson. So now I invest wisely in many different aspects. I spread my risk throughout many different asset classes, and that's where I am today. So hopefully that qualifies me, guys, to speak to you tonight about what we're going to speak about. Okay, Mark, thank you, bud. Okay. So you can see these two little fellas here having a lovely time, and that's probably because they've discovered that a rent-to-rent portfolio, bearing in mind that none of this is owned, it's one of the most less risky investment strategies out there, because you don't own anything. And if it's no good and it's not working, you can get rid of these properties, much quicker than if you own the property. You're not stuck with a property. And these guys have just found out that a rent-to-rent portfolio is making them money 24/7. And I like to call my, not all my rent-to-rent portfolio, but my HMOs, full stop. I like to call them my cash machines, because in effect, once they're filled, they're literally earning me money every single month with, I'm not going to say there's lots of there's no input, because that would not be true, but with very, very little input. Managed well, one of these properties would take certainly no more than a couple of hours a week, managed well. Okay, next one, please. Just press the button, Mark. Thank you. So this is what I like to do. This is a little bit about me. This is Finn. This is my little boy. He's awesome. He's a very keen rugby player, and as a dad, I'm very proud of him. His rugby is one of my passions. But more importantly, what has this all given me? Well, it gives me time to spend with him, watching him play rugby. I don't miss a game. I don't miss a training session. As I said, we like to travel. One of the great things about not having a boss, one of the things about having enough income coming in, and not having to asked permission to have some time back and to go. You know, I'm not a slave to time anymore. I'm not a slave to a boss. I do what I want when I want. So this has enabled us to travel all over the world, which we do on a regular basis. Not so much now with COVID, but we travel all over the world. You know, to the point where the eldest one in the middle there, her teacher actually quite rightly said to her, she said, "You're one of the most travelled young women." Can you go back, please, Mark? You're one of the most travelled young women that we've ever had in our geography lesson. That's my wife there. That's Tori. Now that's, you know, again, what does this do for me? Well, it enables us. That's one of my business partners, Rolls-Royce. He's got a chauffeur, and we went down to some property awards where we were nominated, or I was nominated. Yeah, so we took my business partner's Rolls-Royce and chauffeur down for the evening, which was great. As I said, I like my cars. What's this enabled me to do? Well, it's enabled me to purchase my dream vehicles, you know, vehicles that I had on my wall as a kid. You know, it's enabled me to do that. So yeah, I will be forever thankful of Rent to Rent. I really will. Thank you, Mark. So what is Rent to Rent? Well, basically, Rent to Rent is where we take a house, and it doesn't have to be from a struggling landlord, but we take a house from a landlord or from an estate agent. We usually looking for between 3 and 5 bedroom plus properties. Well, why do we want that? So we can generally split it down and get 5 workable rooms out of it. We then prepare it, get a license on it, and get it ready for HMO. And once we've done all of that, we then rent it out as individual rooms, inclusive of all bills. Next one, please, Mark. Okay, so again, what is Rent to Rent? Well, basically, step 1, you rent the whole property. So the property that we are looking for needs to be right for what we need to do. The rooms need to be of the right size, and it needs to create nice accommodation. You know, we don't want to be one of these rogue landlords where we're not giving, decent properties. We want to make sure it's a nice living accommodation with preferably a communal lounge if possible, if not just 4 or 5 very, very good sized rooms. We then create to 4 to 5 bedrooms, and then we let each one of those bedrooms out. Okay, so we let each one of those bedrooms out. Next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so once we've let those rooms out, so this is just rough figures, guys. So if the maths isn't right, don't worry too much about it. It's just an example of potentially what we can do. So we basically rent each room out. So we've got 5 rooms in that property. We rent those out at £500 per calendar month. So 5 times 500 is 2,500. Now we have bills, council tax, water, electric, etc. And we'd say that's £500 just for this illustration. And then we have rent to the landlord, and that's £1,000 per month. So in effect, what's left over is £1,000 a month, which is ours. We get to keep that. That's our fee, if you want to call it that, or our profit. So the profit that is left over after all the bills are paid, the landlord is paid, and any maintenance is paid, if we are responsible for any of that, then we keep that as our profit. So you can see, guys, it's not a bad, this is something that hasn't taken £50,000 to buy. This is just a few £1,000s, and we're now creating £1,000. So you can see the return on investment is absolutely phenomenal. So now let's look at how do we scale this. So I thought, for illustration, guys, I'm only going to use a profit of £500. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to show you, just with £500, of actually what could be built. So in month 1, this is a 12-month plan. So in month 1, we've got one property. Now, most people would just say, go and get loads of properties. Well, you know, you'd burst the bank and you'd be bankrupt very, very fast. So I like to help people build sustainable businesses that's going to create great cash flow and last for a long time. So we get one property in month one, then we have a month to get that property ready, get it let out, etc. It's £500. Then in month 3, so we've got a month free in the middle there, we've got another property. And month 5, again, every other month. So every other month, we're just adding one more property. So within month 12, we've had 6 properties in total, at a minimum of £500 a month. That's £3,000 a month. Now, I don't care what anyone says, for anyone, that's a lot of money per month, 3,000. So if we look at this, so within 12 months, I would certainly hope you would all hit at least 6 properties at £3,000 per calendar month. That's just 6 houses will bring you a minimum of £36,000 a year. Now, I don't know if you want to do this for Mark, but in the chat box, just put yes or no. Would £36,000 a year make much difference to you? Yes or no? And you might want to add this one. With £36,000 a year, could you leave your job that you're in now? Could you sack the boss? Because if you was able to do that, and all you did then was concentrate on your rent-to-rent portfolio, you'd get 6+ every single year, because you'd have got nothing else to do. So all you'd be doing is concentrating. You've got rid of that stupid boss and all those hours that you're trading your time for money. For, you know, I don't know how many of you could do that. What's the feedback, Mobs? I obviously can't see this.
A lot of yeses. I mean, Remy's are not quite, but I mean everybody else is yes, yes, yes. Of course, most definitely, yes, yes, yes. I think it's probably worth adding as well that this probably at this point they're probably still part-time, aren't they, Justin?
Absolutely. You know, this is at this point, you know, at 6 properties, you're probably looking at no more than 6 hours a week, looking after 6. Let's call it a day's work. You know, let's call it a day's work. Looking after 6 properties, probably a day's work a week. You know, don't get me wrong. There are going to be some occasions where you're going to have to spend probably a whole week on it. But ultimately, once you have all the systems in place and you've got it all running, you know, certainly no more than 1 or 2 days a week on something like this. You know, and ultimately those hours you could work around how you want to work them. You know, they could be all in the morning, they could be evening, in the afternoon, they could just be just 1 whole day on the business. So I'm guessing quite a lot of you could leave your work.
I think there's virtually everybody apart from one.
Who's the one?
A guy called Remy.
Remy?
Yep.
Okay,
so it's just
cool.
Not quite.
No, that's fine. And that absolutely, of course, everyone's, you know, got different, everyone has different salaries, everyone has different work. But, you know, Remy, yes or no, would £3,000 a month, you know, from working part-time make a difference to you with your salary that you have now?
Yeah, I think
okay,
this is
probably that's going to be yes. If it's a no, he's lying. Sorry?
He said he needs a bit more.
Needs a bit more for what? To leave or to have as a part-time on the side of his job already?
It just says he needs a bit more to live.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
This is also another thing as well, which, you know, we do this for our masterminders, don't we, Mark? Is a financial analysis on actually how much do you need? You know, what is the real figure that you need? A lot of people will put, let's say, £3,000 to live. And I've done this for a friend of mine 2 weeks ago. And he come to me and said, look, I have to have £2,500 to live. And I went, do you? Okay, that's fine. If that's the figure you need, that's the figure you need. But let's just run this down on what you do and what you don't actually physically need. And that financial figure actually shocked him, because it came down to £1,100 a month. Now, I'm not saying everyone's like that, but there are a lot of people, will think that's the figure that I need. But that's the figure you want to live comfortably is probably the answer, not true financial freedom. So, okay, next slide, please, Mark. Okay, right. So why does rent, love this girl, why does rent-to-rent work? Well, there's no need, like I was saying about if you want to get, let's say for instance, you want to go and buy a HMO. Well, to buy a HMO, you're going to need a huge deposit and probably a minimum, depending on the area, but probably a minimum in most areas of at least £30,000 deposit. Which, if you buy that and then get a mortgage and then decide that it's not for you, you've got to sell that property and actually hope that the property hasn't gone down in value, so you can get your £30,000 back out if you can sell it. The great thing about rent to rent, none of that happens because you don't actually own the property. It's a bit like Uber, it's a bit like Booking.com. They own nothing but control everything and profit very, very nicely from it. There's no lengthy buying processes, no stamp duty, no solicitors fees. And because of all those three things above not being present, it's very, very easy to scale because, I don't know about you guys, hello, where are we going? I don't know about you guys, but none of us have got an endless supply of money. And if you happen to keep on buying properties at £30,000 per property, you're not going to be able to scale it very, very quickly unless you're able to refinance, etc., which is getting more and more difficult every year. So ultimately, using rent to rent, you can scale a business very well. Now, some people have said to me in the past, oh yeah, but if you buy a property, you get capital growth. And that is very true. And I don't disagree with that in the slightest. I buy properties and I buy properties with the capital growth in mind. However, I will also say that that's a bit of an old wives' tale in the respect that you never build profit into, or you never build capital growth to a degree into a rent-to-rent business, because I know this because I've sold a business and I know how much rent-to-rent businesses are worth with the right paperwork in place, the right contracts in place. I know how much a rent-to-rent business is worth, and they are worth thousands of pounds. So yeah, okay, you're not building capital growth as in the property's going up, but you are building a business that not only are you profiting from each month and each year very nicely, but you're also building a business that is worth money. That is, if you wanted to sell that on, as long as the paperwork, etc., is all in place, that is a very saleable business. One of which that many, investors would buy off you, but more importantly, one of which many estate agency chains, big corporate chains would buy off you. So, just think about that. It's very easy to scale, and a business can be built from it as well. Thanks, Mark. So this is a case study of a property. I'm going to show you this one. The rent is very cheap on this one. It's in, but the rent started off. The rent that I paid to the landlord is £550. The going market rate for that area is between £750 and £825 a month. But because of the way I structured the deal with the landlord, we end up paying £550 a month. His mortgage payments are only £300 a month on it. And something else I want to tell you about this property afterwards, the rooms are rented out at £1,960 per month, minus the bills, minus operating costs. We profit at £899 per calendar month as a profit for this property. Now, we had all of our money out of this property within 3.2 months. So bearing in mind that if you buy a HMO, your money sat in there unless you're able to refinance it. We've got all of our investment into this property out within 3.2 months. Now, this property is now not a rent-to-rent property anymore, because I've now gone ahead and brought this property at a really, really good price. We've stuck it on a interest-only mortgage, which is I've got a feeling it's around 320 a month, so it's a lot less rent. So actually we have even more money profit-wise from this property. But what I want to show you that is because rent-to-rent leads to other things as well. Yeah, it leads to other things, leads to bigger things, and this is why I love rent-to-rent so much, because you can get so much from it. Next one, please, Mark. Okay, so secret one, to find the ideal property in the right area. Is your thing working, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Is your thing working, mate?
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, so when we're looking for areas, we need to be looking for different aspects, and the reason why we're looking for what's in our area, so we can choose our target market, we can choose who we're looking for, we can choose what type of tenant we're going to be looking for. So, you know, university towns, well, you know, potentially we're going to be looking for students. However, university towns bring even a bigger opportunity, I believe. And that's because a lot of universities now, certainly with COVID, are, you know, have hit a bit of a brick wall. There's not so many students around. Also, with some of these properties, even if there was lots of students around, some of them will miss the intake of students. And this creates, both of those scenarios create opportunity. And here's what I mean by they create opportunity. Well, all student landlords are, in my opinion, one-trick ponies. They only know about students. They don't ever think about the other aspects of this business, and that is contractors and blue-collar workers. Now, near all universities will have contractors in those universities. Around normally university towns come large employers, industrial areas and commercial districts, and good transport links, etc. This opens up a very different category. It's called the blue collar worker or contractor worker, many of which take rooms. You could also get professionals. Now, lots of people don't realize this, and they have properties sitting empty. So many of the students that I've helped in the past have gone on to university towns, identified that the properties where they're struggling to let because they've missed students and are just sitting empty, well, what happens then is they end up re-advertising the property as a standard rent. Our guys come along, or some of the students that I've taught have come along and said, look, we will take these properties from you. We will offer you guaranteed rent for X amount of years. You know, so you never have to worry about this again. And then what they're doing is they are then not so much refurbing, but making the properties look a lot better standard, and then renting them out at slightly inflated rent, slightly higher rent per room, because these now are going to blue collar workers, contractors, or professionals. So you can see there's opportunities everywhere. You just got to know what stones to lift. You've just got to know how to look for these opportunities. But some of the things you need to identify are the type of strategy you're going to be running. Is it going to be students, employers, HMO, housing benefits, etc.? Because there are certain towns in the north of England that probably you're only going to be looking at housing benefits, you know, and you might want to consider, do you really want to get involved in that if that's the case? Next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so what do we need to do? Well, we've now identified that there are a few properties around in the area that landlords have missed students. So we need to assess the market. What is the supply versus demand? We need to assess the standard rooms and have a look at that. Who's our competition? Is there enough clients? So we need to put into like spare room and have a look at, you know, I wouldn't, when you go into spare room, make sure that you are you put the postcode as opposed to, let's say for instance where I am, Milton Keynes. If you put Milton Keynes into the postcode, well, that brings up a massive area. And that area goes all the way to Bedford and close to Northampton, and way over towards sort of Dunstable way. It's a huge area, the MK postcode. So to get real detailed information on the area, you put the postcode itself, and then it pinpoints the area. So you want to be looking at, you know, really a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you have one property for 2 people looking, in theory, that area is good to go. But the great thing about the spare room is that a lot of students will look on like Rightmove and places like that. Spare room is really good for contractors and blue collar workers and that area. So you can very, very quickly assess, you know, I can get a property for X, and then I can let each room for X. The bills and utilities are going to be this. This area is a goer for me. So you can work out or assess the area. You know, this is only a brief description, guys, but you can assess the area fairly quickly to see whether that area is going to work for the rents that you have to pay in that area. And you can also run some test adverts. So take some photos of your bedroom, or, you know, get it all done up, etc., and run some test ads to see how many sort of inquiries that you're getting if you really want to go down that route. I don't worry about running test ads anymore. I'm more concerned about supply versus demand. If that hits the figures where I want it to hit, then generally I know that my room's going to be better than everybody else's out there. So as long as the supply versus demand is in the right way, then I'll just go straight ahead with it, because I know that I will let my properties out, because I know they are so much better than everybody else's. Next one, please, Mark. Okay, so your first property. So what that'll look like? Well, as we spoke earlier, that will look like a 3-bedroom house with 2 reception rooms, and it will be via a landlord or an estate agent. Why 3-bedroom and 2 receptions? Because that is really the minimum that we're looking for to get 5 workable rooms out of the property. You know, it would be the sort of minimum criteria. However, saying that, guys, you know, we do have some of the guys on the mastermind group that they're actually getting 4 bedrooms to work, and they're getting 4 bedrooms to work very well, which is great, because you don't have to worry about licensing, etc. And we're ideally looking for 2 stories. Why 2 stories? Well, it's just a cheaper option to do, even though, you know, all HMOs now over 5 or more bedrooms has to have a license. But when you have a 3-story house, the fire alarm system that has to go into a 3-story house is, let's call it £3,000, as opposed to an interlinked fire alarm system in a 2-story house, which would probably cost you about 600. So I want you to, guys, if you have a pen ready, I want you to write this down, and this is very, very important in anything you do, really. And I want you to write this down, and it's minimum cash in for maximum cash out. Can you write that down, please, guys? Minimum cash in for maximum cash out. And that is the absolute key phrase that you need to be looking for rent to rent. Minimum cash in for maximum cash out. Yeah. And you know, we'll show you guys how to achieve absolutely A1 properties for virtually next to nothing. So here's another one of ours. This property we took from a property developer. So you can say, well, okay, how did you get this? Well, this property was built on a plot of land. Out the back of the plot of land was a building plot. And obviously why this property was the way it was, and with the building, etc., going on, he wouldn't have been able to sell it. So basically, the project was around 2 years, and the developer said, "Look, do you guys want it to do what you do with it?" And as it happened, at this particular time when we did it, we had spoken to Cranfield University, and we had an intake of Chinese students coming in for 2 years. These students are mature students. They come into Cranfield, they're sent here by their businesses, so they're not here as individuals. And we got 6 individual students from this company that came in, and they paid one lump sum for all of the rooms in the property. Next slide, please, Mark. You can see it's pretty cool. So that was a great 2-year deal, you know, and actually the property itself, you know, probably achieves, you know, that actually does achieve over 1,000. I think it's close on £1,200 a month profit. So why wouldn't they rent from you? Well, you know, why wouldn't they want peace of mind for 3 years with no bad tenants, rents paid on time, not having to worry about void, not having to worry about bad tenants kicking off and playing the system and knowing that they can stay in the property and not pay any rent for months on end? Why wouldn't a landlord or agent want that? No voids, no management fees. You know, a landlord doesn't have to pay management fees anymore. That literally passes the property to you and just gets their net rent into their account month in, month out without any hassles, because the tenants are your problem, not the landlord's. Have all the basic maintenance covered. So a stress-free tenant, in effect, you know, a stress-free tenant. And, you know, I can imagine they would look like this little sloth here, very happy. But there's so much for this, and why wouldn't they? And if you believe in what you do enough, then every landlord will see this, and every landlord will want to give you their property. Okay, so secret 2, how to pick profitable properties. Next slide, please, Mark. Okay, common mistake for most people is they guess the figures. I see this time and time again. People saying to me, "Oh, I've got this property," and to a degree, guys, I see people selling deals, deal sources selling deals, you know, with no thought that have gone into figures, you know. And when I've quizzed people on their deals and on their figures, you know, they've guessed the figures. They haven't done true research. They've forgotten to include all costs. You know, they've forgotten to include a void. They've forgotten to include a BT bill. They've forgotten to include a maintenance, you know, all these things too high. And therefore, what happens is you get carried away with the moment and you guess the figures. I will get this. Or one of the common mistakes that I see with people is they will try to ask too much for their rooms because they believe that that's so much better than everybody else's that they can get more. Well, no, just go on what the market tells you to start with, and then you can try for higher. But if you've done the figures based on what the market is telling you, you can't go wrong. And everyone ends up offering too high a rent, then gets stuck into it and has to backtrack then from the landlord. And all that does is make you look really poor. So you need the figures, you know. Do not manipulate figures, guys. One of the most common mistakes people will say is, and they will use this phrase, and you can write this phrase, guys, down and put next to it, do not use. And it's called yeah, but. Yeah, but. Okay, so the figures, the room rates are this. Yeah, but if I do this, it will be worth this. Yeah, but. Okay, so that doesn't work. Yeah, but if I do this, I won't have to pay this. And everyone that wants the deal so bad will say, yeah, but. But what I need you guys to understand is it's okay to say no sometimes. You don't have to say yes to everything. And if the figures work, they work. If they don't, they don't. And it is as black and white as that. And that is where most people go wrong. They try to manipulate the figures to satisfy their own ego and their own need to get their first deal. See it all the time. But if the figures work, they work. If they don't, they don't. If they don't, understand that you have to say sorry or pass on this one, or no, because you can't just take it. You know, one of the biggest things that I heard once, and it was a trainer that told their students, go and get your first deal. It doesn't matter if you lose money on it to start with. And I'm like, why? Why would you tell someone to go and lose money just to get the first deal? Because what will happen is you'll get that first deal, you struggle, you can't pay rent, you struggle. Your then credibility towards the landlord or the agent is going to go way down. Whereas if you just was truthful at the beginning and say, no, it's too rich for us, we can't go for it, this is the figure we need to pay for us to enable for us to make money as well. You will stay up here as a proper business person, as opposed to being just a div and trying to wing it and then not being able to pay your bills or your rent at the end. So don't try to manipulate figures. If the figures work, they work. If they don't, they don't. Okay. Next slide, please, Mark. Yeah, that, you know. So your highest offer, rent. So you have your gross rental income minus your monthly expenses. And for £500 a month, if it's a 5-bedroom house, you're going to be looking for a minimum of £1,000 per month profit, minus your voids. Once you've taken all of this off your gross income, that is your net figure, and that is the figure that you're going to be able to offer because you've built your profit into that already. Now, if you want, you know, more than £500 a month, then you add more profit to each room, yeah, to get your offer. So here's another case study. It's a place called Polborough. What's the story behind this one? Well, this was an overseas landlord, had let the property out previously to a tenant, standard family, totally ripped off. I think it took them between 6 or 7 months to get this family out of this property. They spent thousands of pounds doing the property up. And they paid, the tenants moved in, paid the first month's rent plus a deposit, and then never paid for another 6 or 7 months after that. So the trouble you have is that once you could go to court, but the judge will turn around and say, well, they can't afford it, they're going to pay you £1 a week for however long. So basically you lose your money. Plus they trash the property, and you know the guy was thousands of pounds. So he came to me and he wanted me to rent it for him. But he said one thing to me, he said, which changed my mind how I was going to do something. He said, one of the things that I want you to guarantee, Justin, is that you won't put tenants in like I've just had. And this happened twice to him, by the way. And I turned around and said, look, you know, I can't do that. And he said, why? I said, because as much as a good a firm as what we are, I can't guarantee that I can't find that I can't guarantee that they are not that they're not going to pay rent, or they are or they're not going to trash it, or whatever, or you know, etc. So I said, but one thing I can guarantee is that I won't do that. And he said, what do you mean you won't do that? You want the property for you and your family? I said, no, I don't. But what I want to do is I want to offer you a service called where we take the property over, and we call it guaranteed rent. And we take the property over, we give you your monthly figure, we take care of, you know, basic maintenance issues. We put the tenants in, and whether the tenants pay or not, you get your money each month. And literally, he snapped my hand off. He said, yeah, okay, that's absolutely fine. The rent for the property is £895 per calendar month. Now, the rent started, by the way, guys, at, it was either I'll just say 900. It was, I'm just trying to think on this one. I think it was around £1,100 to £1,200 a month. I think it's £1,100 a month. But using the skill level that we've got, and the negotiation tools that we have to hand, we were able to show the owner what we call gross versus net. So what they achieve in their head, let's say £1,100 a month, to what they actually achieve in real life, which was 895, and then we was able to offer him that. He did understand this very quickly. First of all, we didn't, and we said, look, you know, you gross, this is what you get. But once you've taken off all these fees, etc., you actually get this. Now, we're quite happy to offer you that for the peace of mind, which he took. So we walk away, as I say, with £775 a month, and actually the house had already been done up, so we only had to put furniture into the property, and we walked away with all of our profits out of the property within 1.5 months. Next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so secret number 3, how to fill your rooms fast. Don't be like these guys. You know, these are actual pictures, by the way, taken from Spare Room and from Rightmove, etc. These are not made up. It's not where I live. It's not any of my houses. These are actual rooms. Now, guys, you're not going to let your rooms fast with photos like that. You're not going to get top money with photos like that. You know, and in very many cases, you're going to see Jim Carrey face from many people that look at your photos. So be like, you know, this is how to do it. Okay, these are actual rooms from either myself or from clients that I've helped in the past, trainees of mine. This is how the rooms need to look. This is how you're going to achieve premium rates in an area. This is how you're going to let your rooms fast. Stage the rooms for photographs. Stage the rooms for viewings. Don't just turn up and view a house with a bed with an empty mattress. Stage it. You know, if people, you have to create. Humans work on images. Humans work on how they feel. So if you create something and you create a feeling of this is how it's going to be when you live here, they will want to take the room. And honestly, guys, if you generate rooms like you're seeing here, people will take the rooms and they will cancel other viewings. They will cancel other viewings, okay? So just take care in what you do. You need to list your rooms. Now, my preferred portals are, the first one is Spare Room. I love Spare Room. It's very friendly to use. I can use it and I'm not particularly great on computers. It's very easy to use. It has different sections in it. If you are listing on here, you'll use bold adverts and paid for adverts. If you don't use a paid for advert, then what happens is the people that want to contact you about their room cannot contact you without paying for it, because you're what they call a free listing. So they have to pay for it to contact you within a certain period. Whereas if you have a paid for ad, which is only something like £14 to £19, they can actually contact you for free. Now, that, as you can probably imagine, is going to get you much more foot traffic in what you do. The other one I like is one called OpenRent. Now, the reason why we like OpenRent is because it puts us on all the UK top portals. So OpenRent is an online agent. They allow you to advertise your rooms on there. And then what that does is it puts us on Zoopla and Rightmove, everything like that. So you can see our adverts all over the country, as you can on Spare Room, but the portals like Rightmove and Zoopla have a very different category of person. You're probably more likely to get professionals from Zoopla or Rightmove as opposed to blue-collar workers or anything else. When you're looking at the adverts, take a look at the adverts that are already out there. You'll be able to spot very fast who the professional landlords are, because they will have bold feature adverts. They will have very detailed, and bullet pointed description. The adverts will be eye-catching. They will have great photographs, and all the rooms will be staged like the photographs that we showed you. And then what you want to do is keep on renewing your advert. So if you've got an advert, one of the top tips is on the bottom of your advert, just below to the right hand side, there will be a section there which will say renew. Now that won't charge you any more money, but you renew the advert, it refreshes the advert and just keeps you on that sort of front page, as it were, of the adverts that are in your area. Do not neglect your adverts. You know, if something's not working, move it around, change some wordings, you know, just so they're refreshed every single time. Okay, keeps your listings at the top of the listings. Slide, please, Mark. You got all right there, Mark? Oh, there we go. So another case study. Again, this was an overseas landlord. This landlord was in the military, in the Air Force. We still have this property. We now have, or we have agreed a long time ago on this property. Remember me saying about opportunity? We've agreed on this property a lease option. For any of you that don't know what a lease option is, well, it's like an HMO on steroids. It's the next level up, and basically what it means is I've agreed a price to pay for this property within 7 or 10 years, but without the obligation to buy it. So I've agreed on a price that I'm hoping the property will go up in value and be worth more than what it is when I pay it. But if that property is worth less in that 7 years, then I don't have the obligation to buy it. Yeah, I can just walk away from it. And that's the great thing about a lease option. But I've agreed a price to buy that property in X amount of years. So rent for this property, or rent that we get in, is 2,180 minus the bills, minus the operating costs, minus the rent. We're left with £809 per calendar month. And again, you can see, guys, I've got all my profit, all my not my profit, but all my investment out of that property within 2 months. So within 2 months, my investment is out and I'm ready to go for another property. That's how you can scale this business so fast. Yeah, you can pull your money out much quicker than you can a property. So let me show you this, guys, just with 5 houses. So Shackleton Place is a 7-year deal, £72,000 over the 7 years. Pulborough, £58,000. Towan, £54,000. Frithwood Crescent, £50,000. And Littlestone, £75,000. Now look at this, guys. Remember me saying that with 6 properties, I've just showed you 5 properties, not 6, but 5. Now, over the terms of the agreement, that's £309,000 of profit. Now, let's go back and break that down per year. I know what it is. No, it hasn't. It's on there. The slide's been taken out, but I will tell you what that is. If we go back to that 309, please, Mark. Okay, so basically, over the course of all of those terms, £309,000, guys, equates to around £60,000 per year from 5 properties, £60,000 a year. Now, Remy, I'm going to pick on you again. Could you leave your job for that? Could you leave your job for £60,000? You said you needed just a little bit more. Now, I've showed you 5 properties that equate to £60,000 plus per year. Now, how many of you, not only could you leave your job, but how many of you would it change your lives to have £60,000 a year? Because this is what's possible. Nothing that I've showed you is nonsense. Everything I've showed you is from a guy with dyslexia that can do. So if I can do it, you guys certainly can.
Yeah, I think we got a yes from Remy this time.
Yeah, well done, Remy. Excellent job. I knew I'd get you somewhere, buddy.
Quite a few others actually as well.
Good, because ultimately £60,000 to most people, even if you're working for someone, is a life-changing job. Now, take that back and think of £60,000 to do what you want when you want, to have freedom, to have more time with your children, to have more time planning children or practicing for children. Don't know. To have more holidays as and when you want to. There's a lot to be said for £60,000. Now, I'm just showing you the tip of the iceberg, guys. I've got many people that have way exceeded that. You know, one of my top mentees, he's probably 6 years, 7 years into her journey now, but she will probably make around £500,000 this year. Has that just come from Rent to Rent? No. Has it come from Rent to Rent? Yes, because what she's done is, from the back end of her Rent to Rent business, she's built other businesses, all to do with property investment. Now that business, that she will probably take home or earn £500,000 plus this year. You know, and I have no doubts in my mind within the next couple of years she'll be hitting $1 million because of the businesses that she sets up. How did she start? Well, she didn't start with any money, guys. She started 62 something thousand pounds in credit card debt is where she started. How long was it before she paid her credit cards off? 23 months. So, guys, that should be motivation for any one of you here. You know, that she's just a normal girl that listened to what she was told, did exactly what she was told, didn't divert, didn't give up when the going got tough, when she thought it was not going to happen, and she got her first deal, and then it just freewheeled from there onwards. Thanks, Mark. Okay, so would you like to do the same, and how can, you know, how can we help you do the same? You know, for instance, guys, you know, I'm going to ask you, you know, are you okay with me to tell you how we can help you? You know, is that okay that I can tell you? Because what I would like to tell you about is the Rent to Rent success roadmap and how you can get there. So you first need to source the property. You then will research your location and you will source the property. You then have to think about licensing. Is it a licensable property? Is it a planning property? You know, some of the things that we haven't spoken about tonight purely because we don't have time. But we need to think about licensing and planning, Article 4, which prevents HMOs. We then need to understand our target market. We then need to get the property. We need to furnish the properties once we have it. We then need to advertise the rooms and look in for our tenants, which we then fill the rooms. But then the really important parts come, and that is then to manage the property for maximum effect, to make sure they are profitable, to make sure they're systemized and run well. And then we can then scale and expand and build a, you know, a well sought after business that is worth money. Next one, please, Mark. Okay, so you know, which would you prefer? Would you prefer a bike with square wheels? Would you prefer a bike, you know, that you are struggling? You know, and I have no two ways about it, guys, that each and every one of you will get there. But people will look at me and call me a success, and people will say, Justin, I want to be where you are. Now, is that going to happen in 12 months? No, it's not. Because, guys, what I want you to understand very quickly is I'm a success, but I'm a 20-year success. So I've been doing this a long while. However, could I help you get to the next stage like this fella on the back of the motorbike? Probably a lot safer than him, to be honest. You probably have just as much fun as that, but I will get you there a lot safer. Rather than this guy on the left-hand side struggling, because I will teach you all about my mistakes. I will teach you about, you know, in my early days, you know, the mistakes that I made, the contracts that I shouldn't have used, et cetera, you know, and I will show you how to get properties fast, reliable, and how to build a sustainable business. Next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so webinar bonuses tonight is a move-in check-in list, a communal rooms agreement valued at £50. The first one's valued at 100. The landlord discovery call template, and this is where you would call a landlord and ask the right questions to get the right answers where you need to go. You know, we put a value of that on 200. The common law agreement is the one of the things you'll get. You know, this is a big one. This is valued at £3,000. If you went to a solicitors to ask for a common law agreement made up, you know, properly, I'm sure you can get one off the internet for next to nothing, but it will be worth next to nothing. And actually, you know, potentially your company will be worth next to nothing. To have a proper one made would be at least £3,000. Okay, so you're going to get the house manual. That's valued at £100,000. The offer machine, £500. The HMO list letter. This is the letter that you're going to send to all of your landlords from the HMO register. And again, if you don't know how to get that, one of the things in the mastermind group is we teach everyone how to do that. Facebook support group. Now, this is mind-blowing, you know, because the Facebook support group that we have at the moment is very rarely do I ever write in it. But what happens is if people ask questions in there, I may, if it's a short answer, I may write a very short answer to that. But again, because of my dyslexia, it's much easier for me just to pick up the phone and do a Facebook Live, telling you what to do and what not to do. So the Facebook Live, the support group, you know, we've put a value of £1,200, but to be honest with you, that's priceless, because, you know, guys, you know, I'm not going to tell you how much I earn, but I earn a lot of money, and I'm telling you now, my time is worth a lot more than £1,200. Next one, please, Mark. Okay, so everything there in total, I'm not going to go through them all, but you know, if you put a real oh, and the final one is the 6 months mentorship program with me, myself, and Mark, and Jackie, and Peter, all highly experienced investors, highly experienced business owners, and we know what we're talking about. You know, valued at £10,000 for the 6 months. If you put all that together, you know, that's in theory a real world figure of 15,350. Next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so if all of this if this course helped you, or all it was to help you get one rent to rent and run it, and you earning £1,000 a month, earning £12,000 a year, bearing in mind we'll give you the cost of everything together, would it be worth it? Well, I would say yes, it would. That's just one deal. Could potentially pay for all of what we've spoken about there, one deal. If it took the pressure off you financially every month, one deal, guys, could potentially take huge amounts of pressure. You know, one deal would literally take, you know, no more than an hour a week, an hour a month, you know, which one deal would take lots of pressure off of you financially. You know, would that help? Would it be worth it? Well, of course it would, absolutely. If you give you the time and money to do what you want when you want, would it be worth it? Well, I believe so, because that's why I got into what I'm doing to start with, to get my time back, not to be a slave to time. So the amount of money that I spent on education, yeah, I know my mentor was someone I helped, but the amount of money that I've spent on other training, other business courses, etc., would I change anything? Not a penny. Some of the courses, yeah, I haven't necessarily agreed with. But however, had I not have been on that course to start with, I wouldn't have met certain people that I've met. So I'm a massive believer of investing in yourself more than anything else. Next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so once you've completed it, or once you've completed the membership, you will know how to find the right areas, how to speak to landlords and agents, because what I do on our mentorship program is I actually go through it individually and I show you, I actually do my pitch. I give you a special tool to show you how you can use this tool, and with the right, not to say the right training, but with the right practice behind it. Once I've showed you, the tool that I give you is absolutely devastating. Not always with agents, you know, I'll be honest, but with landlords, it is an absolute killer. It really is. With agents, there is a different approach, and again, I do live role plays with myself where, you know, I put you to the test. I get you as mentees to quiz me and to try and beat me, and touch wood, it hasn't happened yet, because the fact is, unless if you're asking me general, if you come back with a stupid question, then you're probably going to get a stupid reply from me. But if you ask anything that an agent or a landlord would ask you, I have so many years of having to deal with these questions that it's non-stop. You will understand how to set up your first HMO. You will understand how to manage them with virtually hands-free, you know, with very little input by setting the right systems up. We will show you how to get your first and many more properties after that, and how to scale the business, you know, how to scale this rent-to-rent business to the next level, to how to scale a business that you are then maybe employing some people that you don't even have to work in anymore, and it's just generating you money. Okay, so these are some people that I've taught. These are some sort of recommendations. You know, Stephen Doran, if you ever want to know about NLP or anything like that, which is a very, very powerful mind technique. And he's an author of the best-selling book, Burn the Bullshit. Stephen was also appeared on the SAS series about becoming an SAS soldier. He appeared on there, and basically Stephen came to my training, was blown away by it. Now, did he need it? No, because he's a wealthy guy in his own right. But did he use it? Yes, he did. He used it as another aid and another arrow to his bow. That, you know, some deals that he just couldn't get, but wanted to rent them would have been ideal, that he could earn £500 to £1,000 a month from. You know, he likes to thank the course. There's some more, you know, some great, you know, and guys, I urge you to have a look on Facebook and just see what people think of me and how they've what I've given them over the years of training. You know, Rob, Clayton, Hiwa, all these people have thoroughly enjoyed what I've taught them, and I've taken the knowledge to the next level. Now, so this is Giuseppe. Now, many of you might have already seen Giuseppe. Giuseppe is probably one of our most successful rent-to-rent mentees. Giuseppe and his wife started life with Mark and Jackie on Property Mastery Academy, and then I got hold of them, and I taught Giuseppe and his wife how to do rent-to-rent. Now, the reason why I like to bring this up, because a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm not going to have time to do this. Well, okay, well, Giuseppe was a very, very high up project manager for Shell International Fuel, working very, very long hours, but he knew that he didn't want to stay in that role forever. He knew that he was just trading time for money. Never got to see his kids. He was always on projects here, there, and everywhere. Had 2 young boys and his wife at home. He really wanted to make a difference and to see his boys grow up. So he decided that he's going to take massive action. Now, he was on a huge, you know, a big salary that, you know, he had to earn X amount. He's now left his job. I believe he's left his job now, hasn't he, Mark? You know, just 10 hours a week, he managed to earn over £5,000 per month without buying a single property. You know, Giuseppe now has taken it to the next level that has enabled him to leave his full-time job with Shell International. And I'm not too sure how much he earns now, Mark, but you probably know him better than me at the moment.
He's got, I think it's 30 rent-to-rents now.
30 rent-to-rents, okay. So guys, bare minimum, he's going to be doing £15,000 a month. Probably more like early 20s, late 20s per month. Very, very successful guy. But again, wasn't going to make excuses that he didn't have any time. He did whatever he had to do to make it happen, because the reason being, guys, his why was stronger than his reason to fail. He wasn't going to fail, because his why was stronger than his appetite to fail. Thanks, Mark. You've got enough time? So these are nice guys. Vivian and Ray, again, started life as mentees with Mark and Jackie. Now, Viv and Ray were childhood sweethearts. Ray then went into the armed forces and went off to war and different bits and pieces, and they lost contact for many, many years. And then they got together again later in life, and they was childhood sweethearts, as I said. So they all went off in their own way, got their own families, etc. But then they got together later on in life. They came to the UK around 10 years ago. Ray was a pastor, and Viv ran a small letting agency. Now, I still remember my first call with Viv. She called me directly, and as a letting agency, she couldn't get into her head rent to rent. She just didn't want to make it work because she had too many hiccups in her head as to why it would fail. So I sat and I spoke, and we trained her. Ray got it from day one, but Viv was just a different kettle of fish. But I just sat and I explained it in a certain way, and she got it. And then by the end of their first 12 months of doing rent to rent, they were generating over £10,000 per calendar month. This enabled Viv to bring her father, of a very great age, over from South Africa to live with them, to see the rest of his life out within the UK with her and her family. And that was all due to her rent-to-rent business, enabled her to do that, enabled her to bring her father back to see his last days out here. So it's a great story. But I like using Ray and Viv as an example, and the reason being is because at the very beginning, Vivian was having none of it, was she, Mark? She literally just wouldn't have any. No, this cannot work. I can't see how this can work. And I just explained it in a certain way that she went on then to become very, very successful in her rent-to-rent business.
Yeah, no, she was very hard work to begin with. Ray was much easier. He knew nothing about property beforehand, which was great.
Yeah,
so
it's a classic example, isn't it, of having bad habits. Have someone that doesn't know anything, easy. Have someone that has lots of information, can be hard to teach, because in their eyes, bearing in mind, Vivian's a lot older than I am, and in her eyes, she knew more than me to a degree. And I had to show her, right, this is what you don't know. Yeah, this is what you don't know. So let me show you what you don't know, and then you can tell me whether it works or not. And that's exactly what I did, because I think it's a great example. You don't know what you don't know. So remember that one. So the PMA Property Mentor Elite Rent to Rent Mentorship is a 6-month mentorship, including startup. You can start immediately. It's a brand new support program and has direct I'm reading this here. You have direct access to me. So literally any issues that you have, you can not necessarily call me direct, but it's all via the Facebook group. You can message me direct. It starts immediately. You can come in. We pre-record. We don't pre-record. We record every single session that we have. So for every training session, every single week that we have, you can watch it over and over and over again. It's yours forever. You know, not just one of these courses where you turn up, get a bit of paper, and then you go. This is literally, you can watch this over and over again. Okay, it's with me direct. Okay, first on, it's our first ever online rent-to-rent mastermind type support system, and it's working brilliantly. We meet up every single week for 2 hours every single week, and you know, Mark will probably shake his head at this point. The 2 hours, guys, generally goes over a lot longer than 2 hours, because as you can probably imagine, guys, I like to chat. And generally I do all the training and I have a good half an hour, maybe 45 minutes question and answers. And very often our sessions go on for 2 hours, 45 minutes. Mark very often will just clear off and leave me to it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not about the money. For me, it's about giving back. It's making sure that everyone's getting true value, and it's every single week. You do have direct access via a private accountability group. So that's daily. So every single day, you know, like all the messages that have come in today, all get answered. But every message that comes in today, where people are wanting advice, they are finding deals, they want to know if the deals work, they want some support and guidance of and help to succeed. This happens daily. And this is all part of the mentorship group, the elite mentorship group. This is all part of it. So what do we get? Well, we get the move-in checklist, the communal rules, the landlord template, the communal agreement, the house manual. The offer machine, that's the one where I told you that wins over landlords every single time. And to be honest with you, that in itself is probably the most valuable one. I put a very, very cheap figure on that, but it's not so much the offer machine that works, it's the way I deliver that offer machine, and I use my sales skills within that, and I'll show you guys exactly how to work it. The HMO letter, the common law agreement, the Facebook support group, and 6 months with me just for 2,970 plus VAT. So none of this £15,000, you know, that's all neither here. That's just a value, total value of what it could be worth if I sold everything individually, which I don't, by the way, guys. None of this is sold individually. I don't do any other training. As Mark and Jackie have quite rightly said, I've pretty much retired from training, but the 2 hours a week on the mastermind, I absolutely love. But I'm going to give you a webinar offer tonight, and it only stands for tonight. So don't bother calling tomorrow and say, oh, I want to be part of it, because the offer will not stand. The offer is just $495 plus VAT per month. It's just $495 plus VAT per month, and plus the bonus offer. So a business or life partner can join you as well. So including in that price, you can bring a business partner or your life partner. Don't just go and find someone else that wants to do rent-to-rent and say, I will be part of this, because we will check. So it can be a business partner or your life partner. That's the offer tonight, guys. The first 10 people to sign up, sorry, that is for the first 10 people to sign up. In the last webinar we run, literally it sold out. It is an absolutely mind-blowing mastermind group. It's getting some great results already. And, you know, as Mark will probably tell you, that I'm quite honest in that group as well. You know, if you're not doing what you're, sorry?
Sometimes too honest.
Yeah, well, the thing is, guys, you're paying money to be part of that group. And if I think you're not using the group to its full potential, I'll be very honest with you, and I'll tell you outright that, guys, you need to pick your ideas up. You need to buck yourself up and get working, because nothing's going to land on your lap. But it is with me. Every single month is only with me. There's no other mentors around. Mark will join every now and then, but ultimately it's with me. So basically the format of the evening is we do the first hour and a half on training. So I will train you on a section. That is all recorded, so you have that for life. And then what happens is, after my training, we'll then go into Q&A sessions about the training, and then we go into Q&A about the previous week that you've had and your successes and your losses, and has that been any good, and how can I help throughout that. Then moving forward, in the 6 days in between of when we're next on the next Zoom call, I literally answer all your questions in the Facebook group, but more importantly, there's Peter in the group, there's Jackie in the group, there's Mark in the group. We're all in the group there, you know, able to help you if you need it. If, let's say, for instance, I can't answer on that particular day because I'm doing something, one of the other mentors will help you. If not, one of the other, because we have some great guys in there doing some great things. But the great thing about the community is everybody is helping everybody. So it's just $4.95 per calendar month. And it's for the first 10 people only. I'll allow you to bring a business partner or a life partner for free. Okay, so it's really, really good value. The link, go to now, guys, is at the bottom there. Copy and paste that, or just put that into your browser and go and get signed up today, guys, because I'd love to see you next Thursday on your first call with me. It's a great bunch. You will succeed. As long as you do what I tell you to do. If you don't do what I tell you to do, then don't join. If you have no intention of doing what I tell you to do and how to do it, and you will have your own ideas of how to do something, then don't join. The mastermind group is for people that want to succeed, but succeed from someone that's done it, so I can show you all the mistakes that I made.
I think, if they're quick, Justin, they could probably even join the call tomorrow night. So
yeah, guys, you could join the call tomorrow night if you're quick enough and you join up now. You could join the call tomorrow night. The next one is tomorrow night.
Okay, shall we take a few questions now then?
Yes, let's do the questions then, mate.
So this one's from Paris.
Hey, Paris.
How can you guarantee the rent if any more than 2 tenants don't pay the rent?
Well, you still pay it. That's the thing about the business itself, Paris. You know, you can't just pick and choose what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. You as a business have worked out that you can fill the rooms. You as a business have offered that you will pay X amount of rent, and you will pay that rent no matter whether you're empty or whether you're full. That's the whole idea of the business. But like what I said, Paris, with the right attitude, with the right training and the right knowledge, you won't be sitting empty. You're not going to have months where you can't afford to pay the rent, because I would have taught you within that period how to pretty much guarantee that you're going to have tenants, how to identify areas where you're going to be able to fill your rooms fast. So there is no guarantee. You know, you can't pick and choose if you're going to pay rent. If you commit to this, it's a business transaction, you will pay the rent. Whether you have 1 room filled or 5 rooms filled, you'll still need to pay the rent. You can't pick and choose how you're going to pay. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, I've just posted a link to the URL in the chat box, just in case you didn't get a chance to write it down. So a question from Sarah. What do you count as operating expenses?
So operating is a great question, Zara. So operating expenses are cleaners, gardeners, things like this. Yeah, so anything that you would have to pay on keeping the house clean or keeping the gardens clean, etc., etc.
Question from Ahila. So given that some properties have a break even in 2 months, based on some of the numbers shown, it might only need an outlay of cash of around £1,600.
Correct.
Does this mean the internal works are pretty basic?
Yeah, if you listen to, so what was the lady's name or the gentleman's name?
It's Lady Ahila.
Hila, hi Hila. Yeah, so basically, if you just recap, and what I said was some of those properties were already refurbed inside by the landlord. So all it took was me to put furniture in. So that furniture come to no more than £1,600, and that was what it was. Bearing in mind, Hila, that Some properties will take more to get ready for rent to rent. And for that reason, some of those properties, your break-even point will be more than 2 or 3 months. It might be 6 months, but generally, as a rule of thumb, that if you have a deal that is just for 12 months long, then your break-even point should be no more than 6 months. So it means that you have then 6 months of profit coming out of that property. And likewise, if you have a property agreement for 2 years, in theory, it gives you a little bit longer to get all your money out. But basically, I don't want people taking a property on that they're not going to get their money out of. How I teach people how to set the figures up is that if you're not breaking even within 6 months, then for me, it's not a deal. I won't touch a deal unless I've can break even within 6 months, no matter whether it be 4 or 5, months, years. Now, have I taken properties on where if I didn't structure it in a certain way, would that break-even point been much more than 6 months? Oh, absolutely. One of the ones we had to replace the kitchen. That doesn't go too well with what I said about minimum money in, maximum money out. However, the way I structured the deal was, I structured it that I would pay for the refitting of the kitchen because the landlord couldn't afford it. However, I then wanted X amount of months rent free, which then I got all the work done very quickly, got it filled very quickly, and then used that income to pay myself back very quickly. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay. So I just don't think I finished off the question that Hila asked. So she, basically saying that is it advised to do? Is it not advised to do more substantial internal changes? Which I guess is the answer to that is no. You don't really do much, do you? So
no. Just remember, Hilia, minimum money in for maximum money out. Bear in mind, you don't own these properties. You're only leasing these properties, so they are not yours. Okay, you do not want to be spending much money on these if possible.
Question from Sue V: how to get an HMO license?
Okay, so HMO license. Well, basically, you would go on to your council website. You'd go into housing sector, HMO sector. You'd apply for a license. The inspector would come out to the property. They would survey the property, and they would tell you what you've got to put in place. They would then give you what they call a schedule of works, and that will give you from the housing sector exactly what you have to do to that property to get it licensed. Once you've done all those schedule of works, they will then come back out, inspect the property, and as long as they're happy with it, will then issue you with a license.
Stuart, it says you showed on your examples that you broke even after X number of months. What upfront investment were you breaking even with?
So pretty much what we just said. I don't particularly pay. Well, I don't pay deposits. Full stop. I have a way around not paying deposits. So just going back to what I said, I look to spending as less as I can on a property. So very often my ingoing figures are physically maybe doing some light refurb work, i.e. paint, etc., and the furniture. Now, bearing in mind, guys, that some of those figures, and again, I'm not going to hold anything back, some of those figures that you saw are older properties that I've got before I needed licensing. So nowadays, you would have to spend a little bit more money on getting the properties licensed, unless they are below 5 bedrooms. If they are below 5 bedrooms or 5 people, you won't need to worry about getting a license and getting everything done. So it's a lot cheaper to get into those properties. Hence the reason why a lot of people that I'm training at the moment are trying to get 4-bedroom properties to work at slightly less profit per month, but there's less upfront costs.
Okay, come on, guys! It's an amazing offer to work with Justin for 6 months, just $495 plus VAT per month. Is plenty of you still online here, so you're obviously happy to listen to the questions. But if you're remotely interested in taking charge of your life and want to get to that financial freedom that much quicker, now's the time to do it. Question from Remy: you didn't reflect voids in your analysis. I guess how do you deal with voids? I guess.
How do I deal with voids?
I guess you haven't put voids in your figures.
So generally, Remy, what I'm doing with the voids, I'm doing around 5 to 8% voids.
What's this one? Leon, do 6-bed properties give you better wiggle room compared to 4 beds?
What do you mean by wiggle room? What do you think that means, Mark?
I'm guessing more profit, I would imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's horses for courses, really. So it's a good question, that one, mate. So yeah, you will get more profit from a 6-bedroom, but with a 6-bedroom, you've obviously got to worry about licensing, the ingoing costs reference to licensing. You've also got to worry, well, not worry, but you will have more management of a 6-bedroom. You're likely to have more problems with a 6-bedroom. So I'm guessing a 6-bedroom, yes, you'll earn more money out of it. And to a degree, you could probably take 2 bedrooms sitting empty, and it still, either makes a little bit of money or just breaks even. Whereas a 4-bedroom, I'm getting what you're saying now, with 4-bedroom is slightly tighter. You've got to run them more efficiently and make sure that they're pretty full all the time. However, what I tend to find is that 4-bedroom properties are just much easier to manage. They're much easier to keep rooms full because there's not so many people within the properties arguing or having disputes, and are generally just a much easier property to look after. So really what you want, I like 4-bedroom rent-to-rent HMOs, I really do. And would I take a number of 4-bedrooms over a number of 6-bedrooms? Yeah, probably, if the figures work properly. Just much easier to look after. They tend to stay filled longer because you might get some disputes and that in a 6-bedroom where there's more people. So that means the turnover of 6-bedrooms might be higher than the turnover of 4-bedrooms. Hopefully that makes sense, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hila's asking again, do you include a make good clause for things like room doors, i.e. HMO bedroom doors have locks, so not very desirable if the landlord takes control in a few years? So I guess it's putting the property back again, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the clause, in your agreement that you'd give to the landlord, it would be the same as any commercial lease. It would be you would return the property in either the same or better condition than what you found it.
Question from Vivienne. Does the course also cover whether it's better to set up your property business as a limited company or sole trader, and how best to manage multiple properties under a company, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, go on.
I was just going to say, in short, yes, Vivian. So we put you in touch with our accountant, our recommended accountant, who will guide you on what's best for your particular circumstances, because not everybody's situation is going to be the same. So, but she'll tell you which would be best for you. Basically,
was it Vivian?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Vivian. The course covers everything. It covers not so much how to set it up, because we don't set the companies up for you. That would be, this accountant, etc. But we basically tell you or advise you, which is the best route for you. We will go through how to set up a website or how a website should look, what it should say. You'll get to use my website templates, which you can copy and paste into your own website. So everything that you'll need to start a business will cover what you need to become a business, what what part of redress schemes do you need to be a member of, etc., etc. So yeah, you'll get everything that you need to start a business, apart from us doing it for you, but we'll tell you how to do it.
Well, welcome on board, Vivian.
Oh, well done, Viv. Awesome. Vivian, sorry. Feel like I know you already.
So Stuart's asking, do you get managing agents to handle the HMOs? And are there any good ones out there?
Well, none that I'm going to recommend. So what's the guy's name?
Stuart.
Stuart. Hi, Stuart. Mate, none that I recommend. If you're in Reading, I know a good guy. Name's Peter. But yes, you can get hands off if you want hands off. But just bearing in mind, if you have hands off management, you are going to be losing 10 to 12% of your profits. That's what you've got to think about. So yes, you can. In short answer, yes, you can. But your figures are probably going to have to be a little bit higher to start with to make sure you can pay for their fees. But yes, the answer is yes, you can.
And a question from Isabel, just saying, are you the one who deals with the maintenance and making sure rent is paid, or is that outsourced? That's one question. And she's got a second one as well.
So the first one is, are you responsible? Yeah, it depends on the package. So you are responsible for the rents coming in and the rent being paid to the landlord, yes. As regards to the maintenance, well, again, that really depends on the deal that you've structured with the landlord. So if you've structured a deal where, let's say, for instance, the rent is £1,000 per month, and you don't want to pay £1,000 per month, but you want to pay £800 per month, you might want to include the maintenance or the basic maintenance. So nothing structural, just the basic maintenance within that property. And if that be the case, then you are responsible for making sure that happens. But again, if you, like some landlords go, no, I want £1,000 a month, and my response would be, that's absolutely fine, the figures still work for me. However, we're not going to take care of the maintenance, that's going to be down to you. Yeah, so it's got to be a win-win for everyone, really.
And the second question is, do the 4 tenants share the kitchen, living room, and bathrooms, or do they each have their own bathroom?
Again, it depends on the property that you get. So in theory, yes. So you would have a 4-bedroom with an ensuite and 1 bathroom. So you'd have one person share. So it was 5-bedroom. So you'd have one ensuite bedroom where one person would have their own bath, their own shower room, and then 4 other people would share the bathroom. They would all share the communal lounge, and they would all share the communal kitchen.
Okay, and Clayton, what type of contract would we need for rent to rent for tenant and landlord? Also, where to find this information when first starting off? Well, obviously on the mentorship program for one, Clayton, because we include the agreement that we use within the mentorship program, and that itself is worth more than you're paying for the mentorship program. So
yeah, in theory, if you used your Noddle right, the mentorship program is less than what it would cost you to buy all your contracts and paperwork and letters, etc., etc. The actual mentorship is worth more than what it would cost you to go and get it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, guys, there's still quite a few of you still logged on, so I'm assuming you either want to ask a few questions, which please do, or you're going to sign up for the program one way or the other. We don't do this mentorship. This is the first time we've really done this. We've got a few people on it already, and we started a couple of months ago. So it's we started this during lockdown. It's not something we're necessarily going to repeat. But for those of you that are not based where we are, this is an ideal opportunity to get access to the whole team, and particularly Justin, who's been doing this particular strategy for over 10 years, over 65 HMOs, well over 300 rooms he's dealt with. You can do the maths, so you can do that all remotely online with this program. So Kemi is asking, how long on average does it take to find a tenant after it's advertised on Spare Room?
Okay, so I'm going to give you probably worst case scenario. So one of the properties we have, we never got it filled. It took just under 3 weeks to get it filled. The quickest one, we put it live at 8:32 on a morning, and by I think it was 9:30, it was only an hour, all 6 rooms had been let. So it can happen very quick, or it might take a couple of weeks to get it let. But generally, in a lot of the cases that we do, we will ask, in some cases we can get away with it, we will ask for a couple of weeks grace in rent, which enables us to get, gives us a 2 weeks grace or 4 weeks grace to be able to let the properties out. Not always, we don't get it always, but you don't ask, you don't get.
No, absolutely. Okay, Sandra. Let's chat tomorrow. I'll have a chat with Justin too. Right, how? Not sure I understand Suvi is asking, what is the initial investment? How much do we pay the landlord before taking on the deal?
We don't pay anything to the landlord before taking on the deal. You only pay the landlord the rent. See, I don't pay. Some landlords will want a deposit up front, but I have certain methods how to get around the deposit. So in theory, if it's via a landlord, you would need to pay the deposit up front, which might be a month or 6 weeks rent, plus the rent itself. So in theory, 2 months rent up front. But that's not until you've signed the contracts anyway, so nothing up front. However, as I said, I don't particularly like paying deposits, so I will show you as part of the mentorship how to, not how to get around it, but how to structure it in a way that you don't have to pay deposits on the property. So in theory, all you've got to do is pay your month's rent up front.
Another question from Kemi. Do you find you have to reduce the advertised rent?
No, not really, Kemi. Like what I said, I will always work my figures out on worst case scenario. So generally, when I put my properties on the market or my rooms on the market, they are generally well placed in the marketplace to start with. So very rarely, and to be honest with you, Kemi, we've not even had to reduce rates. If anything, our rates at the moment due to COVID-19 are going up. Because like what Mark said at the very beginning, people are trying to cut costs and therefore wanting rooms. And we have never, touch wood, we've never been busier. We had a few rooms empty due to COVID, and a couple of weeks after COVID, the sort of lockdown, they still sat empty. And then I had Jackie, our girl that runs them, on the phone early part of last week saying, I just can't believe what's happening. Every single room is gone and people are fighting over rooms. So it's a great opportunity out there at the moment.
Yeah, I think, I've noticed that as well. And we've started doing the rent to rent again. Just noticed the opportunity is amazing at the moment. Absolutely. Yeah. And a great time to get involved. I mean,
well, the thing is, yeah, absolutely, Mark. It's a great time. And the thing is, because landlords is a bit sweet on both, isn't it? Landlords are feeling the pinch because rooms are being sitting empty. Certainly a lot of the student landlords are just sitting empty doing absolutely nothing. So there's quite a few properties out there to be taken. Quite a few properties to be taken. Some of the mentees that I'm helping at the moment, you know, two have just taken on in the last week alone. 2 properties in the last week alone was one business, and the other business took 1 property on and then agreed 10 other properties to manage on the landlord's behalf. And that's just in the last week.
Yeah. I think the thing is, people don't realise, you know, if you follow the system that Justin teaches, you will succeed. Okay, and you know, not going to say it's easy, because it's not. But if you follow the system and just have faith that it will work, it will work. You know, we've, as I mentioned, we started this program literally a couple of months ago. We've already got mentees getting properties. In fact, one just advertised today. The room is ready. She's got it ready for rent, and she's got viewings booked. So, you know, it can happen in a relatively short period of time if you follow the system that we've set up. What else we got? Sarah, how would you decide how much you would pay for a property?
So you remember what I said in one of the slides, Sarah? You'd work backwards. So you'd work out what your rent comes in, then you'd take your costs out, you'd take your profit that you want to earn out, and then anything else, all your other costs out, and then what's left over is the offer that you can make on the property. So you basically get what it covers per all the rooms let out, then take your profit out, all your other costs out, and that gives you, at the end of that, will give you your profit that you need to, not your profit, but that will give you your remainder that you need to offer. That can be your maximum offer, by the way.
Okay, let's see if I've missed any. Property. Not sure, did I ask that one? Oh, Suvi, what kind of upgrades to the house are we talking when you mentioned improving, upgrading the situation of the house before renting?
So the upgrade is nothing, Susie, really. So generally, what I would look at is if it's much more than a lick of paint throughout the property, I generally won't touch it unless the deal that I can agree at the very beginning, i.e. X amount of months free rent and so on, I don't entertain. I need to make sure that the amount of money that I put in, I can get back out within 6 months. So that's probably the best figure to look at, is if I can get my money out of that property within 6 months, then for me, it's a deal.
Got a great question from Isabel. I can't remember where you're based, Isabel, but obviously you're abroad, because the question is, can this work if I live abroad? Could some the refurb viewings, etc., on my behalf, would it be worth it?
Yeah, it can. And again, like in certain different countries, you'd need to understand the lettings laws more. But I know this works in Australia. In theory, this will work in America. In theory, it would work in Spain. I know with Spain, though, you have to be careful with the contracts, because anything over 11 months, you automatically have rights of tenure over the property. So the Spanish market doesn't. They generally, it's only let every 11 months and so on.
I think she's asking if it would work if she was going to do it in the UK and she's based in Copenhagen.
Oh yeah, okay. So what's her name?
Isabel.
So Isabel. So me and Mark both know a guy called Daniel Wood. So Daniel Wood runs a company or the Swedish Wealth Institution.
Yeah.
And now I've been over to Sweden quite a lot, and I've spoken to a lot of Swedish guys, reference rent to rent and how to do it, etc. And many of those guys came over and did it in this country. So yes, it can work. You know, Daniel Wood has said he knows it can work if you speak to Daniel and his wife Gisela. So yes, it can work, and I've worked with many people from Sweden that have wanted to run rent to rent over here. Because I know it's, over in Sweden and those sort of countries, it's actually quite difficult to even do property investment full stop. So a lot of the Swedish guys are coming over to the UK, staying in Sweden, but actually investing in the UK.
And we welcome some Danes as well. No worries, Isabel. Okay, I think just about out of questions. So there's still a few of you online. So, guys, still got time to sign up. We've got a few places left. If you're going to bring your partner or business partner in that price that we Justin mentioned earlier, so no large upfront cost. You've got to pay £495 plus VAT per month. I think just on incredible value. All right, I think that's probably about it, mate. Unless there's anything else you want to add, then we'll call it a night.
Yeah, to apologise to Isabel, actually, I've just realised where Copenhagen is. Sorry, Isabel. Yeah, so I was in Stockholm, not Copenhagen. But yeah, I don't know whether your laws in Denmark are much different, but yeah. So do apologise, but you're not from Sweden. It was in Stockholm. I was. Did you pick up on that, by the way, Mark?
Yes. Yeah. That's what I said, Dane.
So, apologies, Isabel. I'm sure you'll let me off. But I don't see why not. There are countries that I know can work, and there are countries that I know you just need to understand the laws a little bit. And likewise, people from outside of the UK can do this quite easily here. A lot of the guys, I'm going to use the guys. The reason why I'm using the guys in Sweden, because they did it. And basically what they did was they set up a company here in the UK and then run it via the company here in the UK.
Yeah, she's going to speak to Daniel. Okay, I think that's it, mate. So thanks everyone for joining in tonight. Thanks for all the questions. For those of you that have joined onto the program. Oh, your husband's British, Isabel. Okay. Yeah, it'll definitely work then in that case. Yeah, those of you who joined the program, look forward to seeing you possibly tomorrow if you want to join in to the first call tomorrow, but if not, it'll be next week. We'll arrange a call with you in the meantime as well. And yeah, thanks a lot. We will hopefully see some of you very soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks very much for joining us. And for those that have already joined, welcome. Well done. And we'll see you either tomorrow or next week.
All right.
You finished, Mark?
Hang on, I'm just.
You've got all your emails up on the screen.
Okay.